Identical twins of Reddit. What's the most awkward thing that has happened to you because someone thought you were your sibling? Not so much awkward for me but for the poor girl working drive-thru. I own fast food restaurants and one day my brother, who is not in the business, decided to come visit a few stores with me. Once we arrived, I had the bright idea of going inside and having my brother go through the drive-thru. The girl at the window immediately gets surprised when he pulls up and she turned really fast and looked at me then him. She was literally stuck in her mind, frozen with this weird look on her face for a few seconds. She then turns to him and tries to mumble a sentence and then turns to me trying to say he looks like me, but it's coming out all wrong because her mind was too boggled, I guess. I immediately told her it was my twin brother because I thought she was having a stroke. She took a deep breath and then started laughing. I don't think I'll ever do that again. Fantastic, don't stop doing that. I had my boss get mad at me one time because I called out of my shift one night when I was really sick. He left work before the dinner rush and got some food at a different restaurant that my twin brother works at. My brother told me that my boss went up to him and said something along the lines of, "Why did you feel the need to make up you were sick? Just to go work at a second job? I'm not sure if I want someone who will lie to me to work for me." Needless to say, he didn't believe my brother when he tried explaining that he is my twin. Most of my other co-workers have met my brother and backed me up when my boss was talking about it the next day. This whole thread almost makes me think it should be a law for twins to have a sticker on that says I have an identical sibling. Stop getting mad at me for it. It would be pink. No reason. I just like pink. My parents have a friend who is an identical twin. Several years ago he and his wife were in the process of adopting 2 children through a private agency. Things were going well and the adoption date was set, but about 2 weeks before it was supposed to be finalized, the couple got a phone call from the agency stating there was a problem. One of the people working on their case claimed they had seen the husband out with another woman and the agency would not adopt the kids into an unstable home. Turns out, the husband's twin and sister-in-law had been in town visiting and happened to go shopping and been seen kissing his wife. The agency knew the guy had a brother, but not that he was a twin. He and his wife had to go into the agency with my parents' friends to prove they weren't lying. I can't blame them, but that irritates me for some reason. Brother and I worked together for about 4 years in retail. We would often get scheduled wrong and got so many "you are in 2 places at once" comments. Most awkward thing I can recall that happened was I got yelled at by a customer. I ran register and he ran the floor for something my brother did. The customer laid into me and I watched my brother appear from around a corner and he came by and asked the customer to lay off me and he'd help her. The customer profusely apologized before following him. All in all, working with my twin was a lot of fun. You should have told customers no worries, just go to aisle 5 and I'll be with you in a minute, but your twin is already waiting there for them. In high school, one of my twin brother's teachers said hello to me and tried to grab my arm to speak to me about something probably class related. I didn't know who it was as I had never taken her class and walked off quickly and kind of weirded out. Later she berated my brother in class in front of everyone for being so rude to her. He told her it was probably his twin brother and she didn't believe him. Everyone else in the class told her that he did have a twin brother to corroborate his claim, but she refused to believe any of them. I was in a few classes with a kid who was sometimes really nice and sometimes standoffish. We were kinda friends, except when we weren't. It was very strange. Then one day I saw him walk in the room as he was sitting next to me. Turns out I was only friends with one twin. I have one with a twist. Me and brother are 2 years apart and resemble each other vaguely. We moved towns and after a few years I was visiting my old town. Went to a store and the owner greeted me with some slangs that should be used only with friends. I was shocked and he realized his mistake, apologized profusely and told me how he was a close buddy of my bro. After a year or so I saw him at a railway station. Jokingly I shouted the same slangs to greet him. A WTF was written all over his face. I thought he forgot about our exchange and tried to remind him. He refused to know my brother. I apologized and moved on. Some time later I mentioned this my brother, who said he has an identical twin. OMG, that's amazing. Most of the people I knew in high school would eventually figure us out, seeing as most of us had known each other since elementary school. Now that I'm in college, I have random people walk up to me to talk about the next homework assignment, essay, just any class that my twin is taking to me, not realizing that we're two different people. It's amazing to see the differing reactions of people once I break the news to them. It's always either visibly confused, laughter, and then maybe a "oh, frick you," followed by even more laughter once they realize they've been talking to the wrong person the whole time. Visited my twin at another college, was sleeping at his place when some random girl crawled into bed with me. She did not believe me when I insisted that I wasn't him, so we stayed until he got home from the bar. I'll never forget watching the sinking realization in her face. My dad is an identical twin. Both have a wife and 2 kids. They both frequent a restaurant with the family. Every time we go to that restaurant, the staff point and whisper. Dad tells us it's because they think he and his twin are the same guy, with 2 families, who don't know about each other, and bring both of his families to the same place. I was walking to my car one day after classes when I was in college when this girl comes marching up to me angry as all heck and asks why I didn't call her back after our wonderful night together. Turns out, her and my twin had a one-night stand and he ghosted her afterwards. Listen, it wasn't me. It was my identical twin who ghosted you. No, really. While I was washing the dishes, my brother's wife came up behind me and grabbed my crotch and whispered, "Hurry up and come F me," to which I replied, "Not sure X would like that, to be honest. Definitely seen this porno." Finally, I have something. My identical twin gets 5 matches a day on Tinder. I've been on it for 1 year and I have a grand total of 0 matches. We have the same face, goddammit. It's your bio. I dated a girl with a twin sister, only way to tell them apart, my GF had a freckle under her right eye and her sister had one under the left. I came home from work one morning, GF was doing the dishes, so I slid up behind her and started kissing her neck. She turned to look at me and wouldn't you believe it, the freckle was on the wrong side. GF's sister had come to visit and nobody bothered to tell me. After the initial shock wore off, I started apologizing. They found it extremely funny. It wasn't the first time and I am sure after things ended between us it happened to someone else, lol. I am still friends with both and they bring it up every time we get a chance to meet up. Mirror twins. Me and my twin, being young and dumb, decided to switch classes at school one day. We were in year 2. About 15 minutes into class we both realized that since this wasn't our class we could act up a bit, cause the other would be punished, not us. Which resulted in us both getting lunchtime detention and the awkward conversation with our teachers about why we were acting up. My dad is an identical twin. When I was 17 my older brother died. During the wake people kept walking up to my uncle and talking to him thinking that he was my dad. That was awkward. It was also awkward when I was little and would get them mixed up. My siblings, cousins, and I called them Uncle Dad when the families were all together. Up until my dad got really sick, it was really hard to tell them apart unless they were speaking. Thank God for regional accents. My dad and his brother aren't even twins, but they both have a big beard and similar build and we rarely see him. When I was little, like 3 or 4, we went and visited him at grandma's house. I climbed up onto his lap to play. I had been playing with him a few minutes when I noticed my dad across the room. I looked at my uncle and started crying because he wasn't my dad. It was a scary moment. Oh, I actually have one for once. I'm an identical twin. This is a case of someone assuming my twin was me, though. For some background, I used to work at a place with an extremely tight-knit, friendly work culture. It was not unusual to have folks go out for drinks after work and have 20 or 30 people show up. Anyway, one day one of my coworkers pulled me aside and asked, "Hey, I just wanted to check, but is everything okay with you and Carrie?" Carrie is the woman I had just gotten married to at the time, and I'm still happily married to now. I answered, "Yeah, as far as I know." "What are you talking about?" They answered, "Don't bulls me. A bunch of us saw you last night." I replied, "What on earth are you talking about? All we did last night is stay in and drink beer and watch Netflix. We saw you with your arm around that blonde lady at the Fox and Hound last night. If you're going to cheat, why on earth would you do it there?" After a little bit of back and forth, It became clear that a large contingent of my co-workers had seen my identical twin McKinnon with some woman at the bar that was our most common hangout. I had to get my brother out with all of them once just to convince them that I actually had a twin. From then on, I made an effort to mention that I had a twin around new co-workers, just so that, at the very least, they wouldn't just assume I was an butthole if I didn't acknowledge them when out on the town. So what I'm getting out of this is that I should tell all my co-workers I have a twin, and then if they ever see me doing something scandalous or unprofessional they'll think it's my twin. Also, as a bonus, I can pretend I don't know them if they approach me and tell them to go frick themselves, and just apologize for my misfit twin next time I see them in the office. I'm not, but my brothers are identical twins. My brother and I both had kinda crappy weeks a few months ago, so we decided to go out for dinner. Got there and the waitress kept giving me just the dirtiest of looks. Finally she looks at my brother and says something along the lines of, "Wow, I can't believe you are seeing other women while your girlfriend is on a mission trip." Turns out, the waitress was friends with our other brother's girlfriend. The waitress got really embarrassed when my brother introduced us as the twin and the sister. Even if it was the right twin, she still would have been jumping to conclusions when he's really just out with his sister. People are so dumb, lol. I had a steady boyfriend for years, and he would often get messages from people, sometimes pictures or videos, about my sister making out with someone else or holding hands with someone else, and they thought it was me. Shook TF out of him at first, but we laughed about it eventually. That's gotta suck for your sister though, people taking pictures and judging her all the time thinking she's doing something wrong. My parents were at a dinner party in about 2000 and it came up in conversation that my dad has a twin. One of the couples at the dinner party looked at each other in absolute shock and the husband asked, "Was it possible that your twin was at Expo 86? Turns out this couple thought they had seen my dad cheating on my mom at Expo 86 and actually it was my uncle there canoodling with my aunt. They debated whether to mention it to my mom for over a decade. My dad always says he was wondering when that couple were always a bit standoffish with him. My parents have been married for almost 40 years. We still laugh about it. This is the best one. Can't believe their relief after a decade of should we shouldn't we. Oh, and another one, though it's not really awkward per se. One day I went into a Starbucks, the barista smiles at me and says, "Oh, didn't I see you on the trail the other day? You had the cutest dog." I don't have a dog, but my twin brother does. So, even though I'm quite happily married, I flirted with her for a few minutes and just gave her my brother's number. Real MVP over here. I have an identical twin brother. I am straight and dating a girl while he's gay and dating a guy. One day, my brother and I decided to wear the same outfit for laughs. Before class, I was facing my locker and my twin brother's boyfriend came up from behind and gave me a big bay hug. I was creeped out and turned around only to see that it was him. It's still pretty funny to this day. I've seen this porno. I got an acceptance letter for a college I never applied to. My high school sent the college my transcript instead of my brother's, so I got a letter with my name and his choice of major. It's funny now. At the time it was a huge pain in the butt to get unfucked. Getting fricked in the butt is huge pain. Don't wanna know how unfucked would feel like. Not me, but my lifelong family friends are identical twins. Everyone is constantly confused to who's who. One time, one of them asked me out, and I obviously said yes. But the awkward thing is I was talking to the other twin about dates, dinners, and all that. It didn't take long for me to realize I was talking to the wrong girl, due to the confusion written all over her face. In university I dated a set of identical twins, non-consecutively, not concurrently. I amicably split with the first girl because she went to Latvia for a field study early enough in the relationship that we didn't feel like keeping it going. A few semesters later, I had a class with her twin, who I hadn't met before, and after some initial confusion we hit it off and dated for a few months. I am an identical twin and one time I slept over at her house and there was only one bed, so her husband let me sleep in the bed with my twin and he took the couch. The next morning he heard the shower go on and thought I had gone in there. It was my twin. Then he climbed in bed behind me and put his arm around my waist. He softly said hey in my ear and I turned to look at him and said hey baby, looking for a little variety as a joke. He leapt out of bed and said if I were looking for variety, do you think I would choose you? It was awesome. Your brother-in-law has a great sense of humor. I can see why she'd pick him. My dad is a twin and he always tells a story of when he was in school and he shared a class with his brother. The teacher he had for the shared physics class, his twin had for Irish class as well. Earlier in the day the twin had gotten in trouble in Irish for talking. They enter into physics and my dad gets pulled out of class for a talking to by the teacher. When my dad finally understood what was happening, after like 5 minutes of shouting, he laughed and told the teacher he got the wrong kid. He went back into the class and the twin was sitting there laughing his butt off. So my twin and I went to separate schools in 7th grade. Midway through the year I transferred over to my twin's school. The day before I started my twin fell down in science class and hit their head, and ended up going home. I start school the next day. Same science teacher. I go to the front of the class, cause I am new, and I introduce myself. The teacher's eyes got really wide. He starts freaking out and telling me that I'm Ash, my twin's name. Moral of the story, my twin told no one at their school that they had an identical. The teacher thought I was Ash with a head injury. Edit. Wow, didn't think this would get so much attention. So comments I've seen asked few times and replied to them but thought I would add it up here. We went to separate schools because I got into a private school that let people in by lottery, and my twin did not. I didn't introduce myself to the class. I went up to just the teacher. It was a lab day and I had no idea where to sit. Also it's been pointed out that isn't a moral of the story moment. Noted, and thank you. I have an identical twin too and almost no one knows since it's impossible to casually mention because it just never comes up. It's not like whenever you introduce yourself you say hi I'm X and I have an identical twin. I was in a play in college and my brother was supportive enough to come to one of the performances with some other family members. The stage manager saw him and came up to say the Ginger National, "What are you doing in the lobby? You're supposed to be in the green room." To which he responded, "Oh my god, I forgot all my lines." She then remembered that I have an identical twin. This is my favorite one so far. Identical twin here. I work in a shopping center that my twin had previously worked at. People constantly walk up to me and jump straight into conversation. They sometimes talk for ages before I get to cut in. Most of the time I end up just pointing to my name tag. That stops them pretty quick as they awkwardly walk away in silence and confusion. My twin and I think it is fun not to tell coworkers or new friends that we have a twin. Makes for a good first introduction to the other brother. Username checks out. When we were kids, my twin brother and I were in separate classes for almost everything, having been unjustly split up since primary school. 1 year in secondary school, we had a schedule that meant 1 day a week. We the same teacher for science, but him in a morning class and me in an afternoon class. One particular day this teacher was off for some reason, and a substitute teacher was filling in. I walk into my afternoon class, sit down with my friends and get my crap out onto my desk. About 5 minutes into the lesson with this substitute teacher, he squares up on me and says loudly in front of the class, "Why are you here? You were in my morning class." Everyone stops and looks at me. No, I wasn't. Yes, you were. I then realized what was going on. Oh, you're probably thinking of my brother. I have an identical twin and he has science in the morning. He pauses slightly. I've been a teacher for over 30 years. Do you think I've never heard someone tell me that they have an identical twin? The whole class is now watching to see how this turns out. I swear to you, sir, I have an identical twin. My friends, while laughing, try to back me up. Eventually I had to go to the school office with him to confirm that I do indeed have a twin brother. Because logically what you'd want to exploit as a twin is going to science twice in a day. One time we were discussing random people who we shared birthdays with and one of my friends told everyone I don't share a birthday with anyone. We had to remind her she was a twin. They think as one, be as one. Identical twin here. My brother and I hung out at an internet cafe quite a bit when we were in HS. One day, a friend within our circle asked to speak to me on the phone because she thought I was cute and wanted to get to know me more. Of course I had always thought better of myself than I actually was. so I naturally accepted this opportunity. However, the conversation got more weird and awkward as we both could not relate to what each other was saying or describing. Then she asked me, "Wait, were you the one wearing black?" To which I responded, no, that'd be my brother." And she quickly closed our conversation by saying, "Oh, I'm sorry, I thought your brother was the cute one. Can you hand the phone to him please?" I was both slightly insulted for not being cute and messed with. Dang, you're an identical twin and still not the cute one. That's gotta hurt. They were surprised I was alive since my brother killed himself. Apparently he was my brother's work friend and didn't know he was a twin. I'm sorry for your loss. How has nobody mentioned that X years later family still call you the wrong name? Come on, I love you, but with 37 you've had time to figure this out. My stepdad's family has known us about 30 years too. My identical twin is clean shaven and has average length hair for a dude. I've had a very short haircut and a beard for 8 years. I still get called his name. Seriously, there's half an inch of hair covering the lower half of my face. We don't look alike anymore. How are you all still getting this wrong? In defense of parents who do this, my sons look nothing alike. They are 4 years apart and I'm always calling them the wrong name. I then correct myself by saying I mean the other one. It's a pretty common thing. So after a while, you kind of just accept the confusion. There have been many instances where one of my brother's friends that I had never met came up to me and started talking to me like we were good buddies. It has happened so many times that I have just gotten used to pretending to be my brother to save some of the awkwardness. That being said, one time my brother, twin obviously, was visiting from out of town. He was outside trying to figure out why his car was making a weird noise whilst I was inside watching his baby. About 5 minutes later my neighbor comes bursting through the door yelling at my brother, wondering why my brother was pretending to not know who he was. I love seeing the dumbfounded expression on his face when he saw me inside, and it dawned on him that he was yelling at my twin. Not so awkward for me, but certainly for my neighbor and my twin. There are so many instances of mistaken identity, though. You kind of just become jaded to most people's reactions to the extent that it doesn't really feel as awkward for you as it probably does for them when they realize their mistake. The better question would be, friends of identical twins on Reddit, what's the most awkward thing that has happened because you couldn't tell them apart? Not an identical twin, but I have a friend that we look literally identical. We have separate moms and dads. And if you don't believe me, his mom and my mom have confused us for each other. Anyway, his girlfriend came up to bring him food once and like straddled me in the chair, not to do anything sexual, just wanted to be sweet with him I guess. Except it was me. She didn't notice, and after about 20 seconds of her sitting there, he on the other side of the table said, "Babe, I'm over here." She hit the freaking ceiling. Dang, his girlfriend must be very tall. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Bye for now.